You know what the funniest part is? It's not the betrayal, not the silence, not even the fact that they watched you break and called it space. The real joke is that they thought you'd wait forever. They thought you'd always be around, available, reachable, fixable. Like some backup plan? Like you had nowhere else to go. Like you had no door of your own to close. But guess what? That door slammed, locked, bolted. And now they're outside, knocking with regret, whispering apologies into a storm that doesn't care anymore. Too late. Far too late. And that's where your power is born. You see, people don't respect what's always available. They chew on your kindness like it's bubble gum. Sweet, cheap, and disposable. And when it's flavorless, they spit you out like you were the problem. You gave and gave and gave until your hands bled and your voice cracked. You stayed when no one stayed for you. You answered every call, replied to every lie, held your tongue in rooms that disrespected you. And what did that get you? Silence, distance, ghosts wearing the face of someone you used to trust. They mistook your patience for weakness, your loyalty for stupidity. But now they get to see what it looks like when the quiet one walks away. They waited too long. That's their fault, not yours. You ever notice how they only start caring when you stop talking? When your name disappears from their notifications, suddenly they're worried. Suddenly they miss you. Where was that when you needed them? Huh? Where was the I care when you were bleeding out alone, pretending you were fine, just to keep the peace? Peace for who? Not for you. For them. And they didn't even notice. That's the curse of the giver. You break yourself into pieces for people who won't even pick one up after you shatter. But you learned, didn't you? You learned the hardest way possible, through silence, through nights that suffocated, through mornings that mocked you. You kept showing up for people who wouldn't cross the street for you. That stops now. Let me tell you something real. Pain, it's a professor. Brutal, cold, and honest. It teaches you the lessons that love hides. And its biggest lesson? The people who delay their love often never meant to give it in the first place. That delay, that's proof. It's the evidence they never saw your worth until it made them uncomfortable to lose you. And now that you've become unreachable, they'll try everything. Fake concern, half-assed check-ins, nostalgic little messages to pull on your memory. But they don't want you. They want your forgiveness. They want your presence without your pain, your warmth without the fire it took to create it. But you're not that person anymore, are you? You see, when you walk through the fire and survive, you don't go back to who you were. You become a different breed, not colder, just smarter, not meaner, just sharper. And now, your silence speaks louder than their apologies ever could. You don't need revenge. You don't need to shout. Just shut the door. Let them watch the light disappear through the crack and understand. They did this with their delay, with their doubt, with their arrogance. And when they ask why you don't care anymore, just smile. Because you did care. Too much. And now you don't. And that's not bitterness. That's healing. They don't realize what they've lost until it's standing on its own, unbothered, silent, and gone. That's when the panic sets in. That's when they start rewriting history in their heads, pretending they didn't leave you hanging, pretending they weren't the reason your heart hardened. But memory doesn't lie, not yours. You remember the nights you waited for replies that never came. You remember the times you defended them when they weren't even thinking about you. You remember the sinking feeling in your chest every time they made you feel like too much for asking for the bare minimum. And that's the part they don't get. You didn't walk away because you stopped loving them. You walked away because they stopped showing up. They taught you your worth by not valuing it. And now, they don't get to sit at the table they didn't help you build. You know what the real tragedy is? They were warned. You gave them every sign, the pauses in your messages, the tired tone in your voice, the way your laughter became less frequent, your words more measured. But they didn't pay attention. They thought you were bluffing. They thought you'd always be available for them to come back to, like some kind of emotional storage room they could dip into whenever they felt lonely. They didn't know that every ignored message was you slowly closing that door. Every silent night was a brick in the wall. And now the door is sealed shut, and they're banging on it like victims, like they weren't the ones who walked away first. But the universe doesn't miss. It just waits. And it waited long enough for you to realize you were enough all along. You see, the ones who waste you never forget you. That's the irony. You'll live rent-free in the minds of those who mishandled you, because they know. Deep down, they know they fumbled something solid, something real. You weren't perfect, but you were present. You weren't everything, but you were enough. And that truth will haunt them. Not because you left, but because you never should have had to. You were the fire that kept their cold world warm. And now that it's gone, they're trying to start their own with wet matches and broken lighters. But it's too late. You became your own fire. You lit up your own damn path. And now, you don't owe them a damn thing. Not a word, not a glance, not an explanation. Let that sink in. You owe them nothing. Not even the satisfaction of seeing you angry. Not even the chance to apologize. Apologies without change are just words. They fix nothing. And people only apologize when the absence hurts more than the guilt. They'll try to make it about misunderstanding, about timing, about life getting in the way. But you know better. If someone wants you in their life, they make room. They prioritize. They show up. And if they didn't, it's because they chose not to. Simple. No excuses. No overthinking. You gave them everything, and they chose silence. You gave them loyalty, and they chose convenience. And now that they feel your absence, like a knife in the chest, now they want to talk? Nah. The time for words is over, because there's a line you reach where you don't even need closure. You become the closure. Your growth, that's the revenge. Your peace, that's the proof. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain. You evolve quietly, ruthlessly. And when they ask where you went, the answer is simple. You went where you were wanted, not tolerated, not half-loved, wanted. You went where your soul wasn't drained, where you didn't have to keep proving your worth just to be treated with respect. And if that place is alone, so be it. Solitude is peace when the alternative is emotional starvation. And here's the kicker. The ones who took you for granted will now have to watch from a distance. They'll watch you rebuild, watch you laugh again, watch you become who they never believed you could be. And they'll feel it, not because you're showing off, but because you're glowing. And real growth glows in silence. That glow, it's not revenge, it's resurrection. It's the comeback of someone who survived being forgotten, overlooked, doubted. And now that you're standing, scarred but solid, they want back in. But you know better. You learned. The door isn't just closed, it's vanished. You burned it. Because some doors aren't meant to be reopened. Some people aren't meant to return. And the best part? You didn't even slam the door. You just stopped holding it open. You didn't curse them, didn't scream, didn't beg them to understand. You just stood still, quiet, colder, and in that silence, they finally heard the noise of their absence. They started realizing what it means to be ignored, what it means to reach out and feel nothing, what it means to be on the receiving end of indifference, the same indifference they fed you night after night, like poison disguised as peace. You see, people only understand the value of a heartbeat when it stops echoing in their life. You used to be that heartbeat. You were the presence they didn't know they needed until it was gone. They waited too long, not because they didn't have time, but because they didn't make the time. Big difference. People find time for the things that matter to them. No excuses. When someone says, "I didn't have time," what they mean is you weren't important enough to prioritize. And you need to take that truth, no matter how much it stings, and use it as fuel. Stop replaying the what-ifs. Stop mourning the potential. Stop looking for signs they still care. If they cared, you'd know it. If they loved you, you'd feel it. Real love doesn't hesitate. Real people don't delay what matters. And anyone who makes you question your worth doesn't deserve access to it anymore. They gambled with your heart, and they lost. That's on them. Because you're done being the soft landing for people who keep falling out of other beds. You're done being the comfort zone for people who only show up when the world gets cold. You're not a backup plan. You're not a safety net. You're a whole storm, a whole sanctuary, a whole damn universe of loyalty, love, and light. And the ones who couldn't see that through your silence, they were never meant to have a voice in your life again. You don't owe them your light after they dimmed it. You don't owe them a place in your peace after they brought you pain. Let them miss you. Let them drown in the silence they created. That's their lesson to learn, not your burden to carry. And don't you dare feel guilty for closing that door. You held it open long enough. You stood in the cold, waiting for people who said they'd come back. You wasted sunsets on people who never showed up. You cried behind locked doors so no one could see how deeply you cared. But no more. You've walked through fire alone. You've sat in silence while your chest caved in from the weight of everything unsaid. And now you've rebuilt quietly, patiently, powerfully. You've become the kind of person who no longer needs permission to choose peace. And that's the most dangerous kind of strength. The kind that doesn't need noise to be noticed. Look around. The world's still spinning. You're still breathing. That pain they left you with, it didn't kill you. It shaped you. That silence they forced on you, it taught you how to listen to your own voice, to your own needs, to your own worth. They thought their absence would break you. They thought your world would fall apart without their attention. But you didn't just survive. You grew. You became the version of yourself they were too blind to believe in. And now, every step you take without them is a reminder you never needed them to begin with. And here's the bitter truth they'll never admit out loud. They thought they were irreplaceable. They thought they were the best you'd ever get. They walked away with pride in their chest, thinking you'd come crawling. They believed their silence was power. But silence is a double-edged blade, and they bled first. You didn't beg, you didn't fold, you just vanished, quietly, with dignity, with that steady look in your eyes that says, I've had enough. That kind of silence. It terrifies people because it's not the silence of weakness. It's the silence of someone who woke up, someone who realized that being available to the wrong people was costing them everything. Time, energy, peace. And now they sit in rooms that feel colder without your warmth, trying to fill a void they created, and you stopped caring if they ever do. They'll scroll through old pictures, reread old messages, search for signs of who you used to be. But the person they knew The one who would have picked up that 3 a.m. call. The one who would have forgiven them for disappearing for days. The one who would have dropped everything just to make sure they were okay. That person is gone. Dead. Replaced by someone who's tired of being loyal to the disloyal. Someone who finally realized that love without respect is just emotional slavery. Someone who found power in detachment, in setting boundaries, in saying no more. And that version of you, that version doesn't chase, doesn't explain, doesn't tolerate. That version is dangerous because it has nothing left to lose and everything to protect. People underestimate what silence does to someone who once had so much to say. You were loud once, not with words, but with presence, with effort, with love. You showed up in ways they never deserved. You listened to problems they never returned. You checked in, followed up, supported, even when you were falling apart. But no one noticed the cracks in your voice. No one asked what you needed. They just took, and took, and took, until you became a ghost in your own life, visible only when convenient, heard only when needed. And now that you've faded from their world, now that you've stopped responding to the same pain on repeat, they panic because the silence that once served them now serves you. And don't let them guilt you. Don't let the fake apologies, the sudden flashbacks, the "I miss how things used to be" trap you. They don't miss you. They miss your benefits. They miss the comfort of being loved by someone who would have walked through hell for them. But love without reciprocity is a coffin. You were burying yourself alive every time you forgave without change, every time you gave them access to your heart when they didn't deserve a key. But not anymore. Now you move different. Now you build gates, not open doors. Now you don't explain your peace, you protect it. And the people who took advantage of the old you, they don't get to meet the healed you. Let them talk. Let them twist the story to save face. Let them call you cold, distant, heartless. That's what happens when a warm soul stops being a doormat. They'll call it ego. They'll call it change. But it's growth. It's self-respect. And if they had respected you when they had you, they wouldn't be trying to decode the silence now. You're not punishing them. You're just done. And that, my friend, is your freedom. That's your power. Not in revenge, not in games, but in walking away so completely that they feel the loss in their bones every time your name comes up. You know what silence really is? It's the final chapter they never saw coming. No warning, no goodbye, just absence. Cold, clean, and irreversible. It's the moment the one who always stayed stops showing up. And the funny thing is, they never believe it'll happen. They think the cycle will keep spinning forever. That no matter how many times they pull away, you'll come back. That your love is infinite, your loyalty indestructible. But even the strongest thread snaps, when it's pulled too tight for too long. Even the sun sets when it's burned too long without appreciation. And when it sets, the ones who took its light for granted have to live in the dark they created. That's what your silence became. A night they can't escape. And now they wander through memories like broken glass, trying to piece together where it all went wrong. But they know, deep down, they know. It wasn't one big betrayal. It was a million small ones. The missed calls, the careless words, the times they laughed at your pain or dismissed your truth. The way they always expected you to understand, while never once trying to understand you. They chipped away at you until there was nothing left to hold on to. And then had the audacity to act surprised when you let go, like your detachment came out of nowhere. Like they didn't spend months teaching you how to stop caring. People don't just walk away, they're pushed. Slowly, quietly, with every selfish act that says my comfort matters more than your pain. But here's the beauty of being pushed. You learn how to fly, alone. No noise, no crowd, no backup, just you and the fire they tried to smother. You rebuilt yourself with pieces of broken promises and silent nights. You sharpened your focus with every ignored message, every disappointed expectation. You forged your strength in the very storms they left you to face alone. And now they want back in. Now they remember your worth. Let them remember. Let them beg. Let them drown in the silence they planted. You don't go back to what broke you, not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because healing isn't reopening the same door that slammed in your face. Healing is building a new one and locking it behind you. People will tell you forgiveness is peace, that you should let them back in for closure. But here's the truth they don't like to admit. Sometimes forgiveness is silence. Sometimes peace is distance. And sometimes the most powerful closure is giving them nothing at all. Not because you're cruel, not because you're bitter, but because you finally understand your value. And people who understand their value don't negotiate it. They don't trade it for half-hearted effort or recycled apologies. They don't lower their standards to make others feel comfortable. They simply rise, quietly, unapologetically, until the same people who once ignored them now speak their name like a ghost story. And yeah, it hurts. Don't get it twisted. This strength, it wasn't born from pride. It was born from pain. The kind of pain that wakes you up at 3 a.m., wondering what you did wrong. The kind that makes your stomach drop every time your phone lights up and it's not them. The kind that makes you replay every moment, every word, trying to make sense of why they let you go so easily. But the truth is, they didn't let go easily. They let go casually, and that's worse. That's what scars you. The casualness of being replaced. The ease with which they moved on while you were still breaking. But you don't bleed forever. You don't mourn forever. One day you rise, and that's what they didn't expect. And when you rise, when you finally rise, it's not loud. There's no grand announcement, no vengeance-fueled explosion. It's quiet, it's slow, it's terrifying for them. Because the version of you they left behind was still soft, still hoping, still waiting. But the version you became in their absence, that one doesn't wait. That one doesn't ask or hope or beg. That one walks. That one heals with silence and moves with intent. That version of you is dangerous. Not because you seek revenge, but because you no longer need validation. You no longer crave their apology, their presence, their damn attention. They fed you scraps when you were ready to give them a kingdom. Now, you dine alone like royalty. Not because you're arrogant, but because you finally know what it feels like to eat in peace. You ever notice how they come crawling when they realize your silence isn't a tactic? It's a funeral, not for you, for the version of yourself that loved them, that protected them, that answered every call, listened to every excuse, carried their guilt as if it were your own. That version is gone, buried beneath every unanswered message and broken promise. And now they mourn it like they didn't kill it themselves. Now they want a chance to explain, to talk, to reconnect, as if their delay didn't speak louder than any excuse they could offer. But there's a rule in life they forgot. You can't keep people on standby and expect them to stay whole. You don't press pause on a real one and return expecting the same love to be waiting for you. That love decays. That patience dies. And what's left? Just silence. Final. Cold. Honest. They'll blame timing. They'll talk about life getting in the way. But life didn't get in the way. They did. Their priorities. Their pride. Their comfort. They chose everything else over you, believing you'd just remain, that your heart was a waiting room, that you'd sit there day after day hoping for them to remember your worth. But you didn't wait. Not really. You sat there long enough to realize no one was coming. And then you stood quietly, with every piece of yourself they left scattered. You put yourself back together without a blueprint, without applause. And now they look at you and don't recognize what they once took for granted. It's the sweetest revenge, becoming unrecognizable to those who abused your kindness. Because now you speak differently, move differently, love differently. You don't rush to reply. You don't over-explain. You don't fight to stay in rooms where you feel unwanted. You've learned that presence means nothing without consistency. That words mean nothing without action. That love without effort is just decoration. You've learned that when someone wants you in their life, they show it. They make it known. They don't risk losing you over ego. They don't keep you guessing. And if they do, you remove the guesswork. You remove yourself. That's growth. That's strength. That's what they never expected you to find without them. They romanticized your pain, made art of your loyalty while bleeding it dry. They thought they were the main character in your story, but now they're a footnote, a faded page in a chapter you've already closed. And when they try to come back, dangling guilt, nostalgia, or half-hearted affection, you won't even feel rage. You'll feel nothing. Because the opposite of love isn't hate. It's indifference. And your silence, that's indifference in its purest form. It says, I've moved on so far, I don't even need you to know that I did. That's what eats them alive. Not that you're angry, but that you're gone. Mentally, emotionally, spiritually, gone in a way they can't reach anymore. That silence, it's not emptiness, it's a boundary. It's the invisible wall built from every time they dismissed your feelings, every time they made you feel like you were asking for too much, when all you wanted was the same energy you gave. They never saw it happening, but with each cold shoulder they threw, with each selfish decision masked as self-care, you were building. Not out of anger, out of exhaustion. You were tired of being the only one fighting, the only one reaching out, the only one bleeding while they just watched. So you stopped. You shut your mouth. You sat with the pain. And something amazing happened. You realized the silence wasn't killing you. It was saving you. It was teaching you how to exist without needing anyone's permission. How to feel whole without being someone's option. They'll say you changed. Of course they will.